Alright, test. 1, 2, 3. Words and stuff that test things and sound like I know what I'm doing. Because I'm not going to have a clue as what I'm doing coming up here. So, Saffron, I know you're here. I'm curious, is the nerd of the Metroids here as well? Actually, let me move my chat somewhere over here so I can see it easier. Yeah, who knows? Who knows? This is... Oh, hola. There it is. Okay, good. Doesn't show up. Alright, I think that's all ready. Let me get this out of the way so it doesn't show top secret things. Of which there's so many in this type of thing. So this is a new... yes, that's exactly right. Who I'm assuming is M3D. Maybe you're not, but I'm going to assume that, so... no, this is going to be a smile tutorial for the Eris room. So I guess I should probably do an intro, kind of explain what this is going to be, and then showcase that, and then we'll maybe do some questions and answers at the end. So let me get this changed over here. Should all be ready. I went ahead and pre-set up a room and everything for this, so that boring part should be out of the way. So anyway, hello everybody and welcome to a new Smile tutorial, my first live streamed one. This is going to be on making an Eris style room, and if you're not familiar with that, I don't know what to tell you. You will be familiar with it after this, hopefully, and hopefully you'll know how to do it yourself. I hope I explained that well. So the basic premise of the Eris room is you're basically going to flip your layers, basically. You have two layers you build on. There's layer 1 and layer 2. Layer 3 is like liquid, lava, that kind of stuff. That's layer 3. Same as layer 5, I think. Maybe 4 or 5. Enemies are another layer. But the ones you build on are layer 1 and 2. And you could do some things to make a third layer by removing the FX, doing some other fancy stuff. I'm not going to get into that, but you can make some really crazy things doing that. So layer 1 and 2. Basically, the idea is we're going to flip which layer is on which layer, basically. We're going to make layer 1 in the background, and then we're going to make our background layer, layer 1. We're going to change from layer 2 to layer 1. And what that will allow us to do is create this weird sort of scrolling effect. And it's best seen in like a long, mostly horizontal hallway. You can do it in vertical, but I'll touch on that a little bit later. But you'll be most familiar seeing this in hacks with vertical rooms. There really isn't that much, I guess, special with this type of room. You're just kind of building it backwards, sort of. The main purpose or gimmick of these rooms is really to make a stylized room. I think personally they're good for like a marker. They stand out really well. So if you have a larger hack, especially, putting one of these rooms in, it's kind of like an anchor. People can get a mental map and kind of figure out where they are based around certain marker rooms, and these rooms work well for that. Otherwise, they're really just an interesting, visually stylized room. So let me see. I think let me actually place a tile. Okay, yeah, that's layer 1. So on layer 1, like I said, we want to build our layer 1 into layer 2. So I'm gonna just stick on the background layer right here. And to switch between layers in Smile 2.5, you just press F1. So if you place a tile and you press F1, now you're on layer 2. This is layer 1. If I press F2, nothing disappears because that's just disabling and enabling layer 2. So F1 just gives you which layer is active. It'll delete layer 1 off the screen so you can edit layer 2. And then F2 just disables layer 2. so you don't see that at all. So one of the things with layer 1, so generally what you do is, in a hallway like this, let's just do this. We have, let's not get that thing there. You would have something like this. So if this were the hallway right here, there's a door on each end, you would have layer 1 all the way across. We can't do that with the Eris style room. And this room, let me pull up the room properties here. So it's 1 height. It is F wide, so it's 15 scrolls wide. And I did that just to, no, we don't want to do that. We cancel. I just did that to demonstrate this further. It's easier to do this in a long hallway. A short hallway, the effect will be very minimal. So you want a longer hallway for this type of thing. It doesn't have to be 15 scrolls. That's just what I set it on for the maximum amount here. But layer 2, because layer 2 scrolls differently, it's not static to the scroll here. So layer 1 tiles, if I place a layer 1 tile right there, or 2 of them right there, and I'm running through the room, that tile is static to this spot. It will never move. And that's kind of what you expect, because that's how the game and the hacks are built like that. You know, the layer 1 tiles are static to their spot. They don't move. And that's why this visual effect is very interesting. Because our tiles, our foreground tiles, and I'm using air quotation marks here, are going to be in layer 2, and they are going to be moving. Our background tiles are going to be the ones that are static. So because of that, because they're scrolling, so let's just, you know what, let me actually just make this bottom section solid here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, good, that's the right height. Let's just go ahead and do this all the way across just so I can get this out of the way. We'll have to fix this later once I add the background stuff in the foreground, but we'll get to that later. And these rooms definitely take a little longer to make than, I guess, your regular rooms. I guess, depending on how much stylized stuff, how stylized your building is in general. So, okay, to demonstrate, let's put this weird spike tile, layer 1. And this works with any tile set or whatever. And then let's just put 1 back here. So there, we got all those. Yay. We did something. So if we just do this. Oh yeah, I have water in this room. Forgot some Brudia. So this tile, completely static. It's static to that spot. It's staying there. Generally what you expect from layer 1. Let's run there. And let me just, for now, take the water out. I want to showcase that off later. So that is your basic layer 1 effect. Nothing. It just sits there. Very useful for normal ground rooms and stuff. We're not interested in that. So an important thing to do here, and this will require some testing, is the background editor, because the scrolling is what's going to create this effect. Also note, this is a Smile 2.5 nerd. This is not JX. So your y-axis scrolling is what you're going to want to pay attention to, your horizontal axis. And you can change this to basically anything except 0. 0, you might as well just build it in layer 1. That's a static tile. 1 will have small movement. F will be a lot of movement. Well, not a lot, but it'll be the most movement based off of this thing. So 8's kind of right in between. We can demonstrate the difference here. Let's keep that how it is. I'm going to go back into layer 2 here. So let me just do this here. Let's do that. Let's throw this in here. And yes, this is expert tiling. So let's do, how many scrolls is that? It's 3. 4, 5, 6. Let's start with 6. So we've put those in layer 2. We have a layer 2 scroll. And you could tell the floor's kind of moving. See, I haven't quite got to the end yet. You can see I'm off the map up there now. There's the end of what I've placed. But I still got some places to go. So, and here's the actual end of the room. So with only 6 scrolls, I am mostly covered this room with tiles. So let's just add one more scroll in here. Oops, I'm on the wrong layer. Let's just add one more scroll in here. And this is something you want to test with your own scrolling to see. So yeah, so you see there it is. And I'm almost at the end, not quite there. So if I add one more scroll, let's see what happens here. Minimize this. So the first thing that I recommend, and there we go. Now we're all the way back here. So this is the first thing I recommend you do. Find the scroll speed you want for your foreground tiles. You can change this to whatever. Let me show you a slight difference. So if I did it on F, this will increase the speed, which means this will now run short of the end. But that's fine. Let's just test this. You can see it's scrolling much faster. So I'll actually need to place more tiles at the end to make up for it. So yeah, so there's that, and I still got a long ways to go to get to the end here. If you change it to a different way, to 1, this is the complete other end of the spectrum. Now I've got way too many tiles. This will scroll, but it's going to scroll very slow. So this is, you can kind of see how this scroll looks. You're running, but it doesn't look like you're going very far. So for that, you need far less tiles. So if you don't want to put a whole lot of effort into your background, which is technically your foreground, you'll want to set it at 1, because for that, basically, I think I only used up to here. It might have been here or here, but for a 15 scroll wide room, basically all layer 1 would be built within these 2 scrolls, maybe the 3rd scroll. That's all you would need to build for layer 1. So if you're trying to do it kind of minimal effort, not really minimal effort, but kind of minimal effort, that's how you'd do it. You set your scroll speed so it barely moves, and then you don't have as much to build. So 8's kind of right in the middle, in between the two. Let me get this fixed back here. We'll just go ahead and keep it like that for the purpose of this demonstration here. So now that you have your marker, let's go ahead and just, I'm going to leave that last tile there because that tells me the last spot, or the spot I would have to build to. So now I know I've got all this I need to build in layer 1, or layer 2 rather. This is where my foreground needs to go. So let's just quickly make a simple, I'm not going to get very detailed on here because I don't want to spend everyone's time doing a detailed room that doesn't really need to be that detailed. So we're not going to do too much as far as detailing this out. So basically, this will be the basic floor. And again, when you're building your own, you'll obviously be making it as detailed or as undetailed as you want to make this. So here I know that's the end. Which actually, let's just, we'll do some detailing here. I want this to be solid here. And then we'll just do a couple of these things throughout. I know I said a couple, and I'm not doing much detail, but if things don't look good, gotta fix it. And then, for more quote-unquote lack of detail, let's just do this on some of them. And do it like that. There. So now we've got our basic floor in. And we can add a ceiling as well. I'm going to go ahead and, oops, wrong layer. I was going to go ahead and make this solid for the edge of the room. And it's always good practice, solid off anywhere you don't want the player to get to. Always a good practice. It's never a bad thing to do that. So remember that. We'll just leave air up here and assume it's going to be solid, because someone will find a way to break the game or get stuck or some other weird bug happening from touching an out of bounds tile. It will happen, and then you'll feel bad because you should have done it right in the first place. So there we go. Basic layer 1. Let's get back into layer 2 here, and then let's see about adding some extra fine points here. Let's see here. Let's add something different. I don't like sand. It's rough and coarse. It gets everywhere. It does have some very good glows with the criteria glows. If you like seizures, this is excellent stuff. Let's use some rocky things here. So something to keep in mind with this is, so let's see, I've got that tile there. Let's just do a quick edit here. Where in the world is the rest of the, this is what I'm for. So with this, so it's the edge of the room. With this, you're going to see this. This will probably be easier to demonstrate on the other end, actually. Let's just copy this here. Let's take it to the other end of the hall. And then let's minimize this so it's full. Okay, this is not quite as easy to demonstrate here, I guess. If you have a slower scroll, the end will appear on screen much sooner than it will actually be there. So, also yes, if you have any questions, I'll try and do a Q&A at the end. Specifically, mostly related to the Eris tutorial, but might answer some other things here. But yeah, so on the 1 speed, when we had like 2.5 or 3 scrolls, the end tile would appear here. It will show up on screen and be slowly moving all the way across a lot longer period of time. So again, creating that weird scrolling effect. So, and I am actually going to get back in layer 1 here because I want to have the ceiling down here. And something else I do want to point out, I set this up with blue scrolls, which you don't need to do, but in a horizontal room, if you're not familiar, blue scrolls lock the camera into a certain axis. Actually, let me turn this back on. So, if I get the salt tiles up here. So, the blue scroll, basically, the top two scroll blocks are never visible. That's covered up by the heads-up display. That leaves 14 blocks. These are 16 by 16 grids. So that leaves 14 blocks. However, in the gameplay, you only view 12 vertical blocks. You see all 16 horizontal, but only 12 vertical. A blue scroll prevents the camera panning down to the bottom two scrolls. So that locks the camera. There's no vertical movement of the camera because it'll always be on these 12 blocks here. The camera is panning this way all the time. It's not going to have any vertical dips or anything, any jumps like that. So that'll keep the view consistent. It's easier to work with that, because if these were green scrolls and I jumped, the camera would scroll down. So actually, let me just go ahead and demonstrate that. So pointers, I believe 01 is what I want. It's just okay. So with green scrolls, just to demonstrate this, so you see just from falling there, you get that vertical scroll, and that's fine. I personally don't think it looks that great with this type of room, though. I think it's best to keep the camera locked into a spot, so that way the focus is always there. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's not a rule. There's no rules or anything, but just a thought and a thing I think is valuable to know. I did not mean to delete that tile. Go me. So let's do some very basic pumpkin spice latte type ceiling filler here. Well, something's not right there. No, I'm dumb. I am so dumb. That was right. I know what I'm doing. I'm a professional Metroid hacker. And another thing, because I know the HUD's not going to allow this to be seen, you don't have to ever fill in the top two tiles of a room. I do, though, because this looks incomplete to me. This irritates me when I see this in a hack. And I just have to find this solid filler tile, which is right here. So let's just get this thing plugged in here. Actually, I think I want to change this to the other tile set here. Yeah, there we go. This'll definitely pop and stand out. So let's just take a quick look at our basic room outline. And I'm an idiot. See what I did there? I put this in the wrong layer. Whoops. Okay, but let's not pause it. But you can see the difference in what we're going for here. And you could do this, actually. You know what, actually? I might run with this. You can already see the difference in the scrolling speed between the static tiles on the ceiling and the moving tiles on the ground. You can kind of see up in the corner there. That tile kind of not lining up properly. Let's keep that, actually. Which means I do need to make this all solid here, so this will have to come through. Also, yes, this will look odd. That's the whole purpose of this type of room. It's going to look odd. Actually, I need to do a full thing. Yeah. And we'll just leave that there for now while I go do this stuff. Now let's go back and grab this here. Just make that solid and fix that. And then let's go back and take that out. Okay. So I guess basically just with this kind of already demonstrates the uniqueness of this type of room. So if a player stumbles across this room eventually while playing your hack, like this weird, interesting juxtaposition between the two scrolls here, between the floor and ceiling, you know, it's going to create a memorable little marker spot. Why is... Did I do something wrong here? Oh. Alright, good. So, that already is kind of demonstrating the effect there. But the fun thing with this is you can get super crazy with designs and interesting stuff. So that in itself already looks pretty interesting. Like, people would remember that room. But there is a lot more you can do with this. And we're going to demonstrate a little bit of that. I'm not going to get, like, again, not super detailed with this because that's take hours to build. But let's have some fun. First off, let's actually make some things with this that come out of the ground and go the player has to run behind. That's the wrong spot. Also, is there a less obnoxious tile for this? Okay, that's a bit better. Never mind, it's not any better. It's probably the same exact tile. Oh well. We'll live with it. So let's just run with this here and see what we can come up with. We'll just make some quick little designs here. And where is the 45 degree? There it is. So just remember our ceiling line is right here, so we need to build at least to that spot. And we'll just do it like that. And remember, layer 2 has no tile properties. Any tile you place in layer 2 will have no properties. So it's always, and I can't stress this enough, always double check your tile properties here. And especially once we start building in layer 1. Because I have the tiles properties set up how I want between the air and the solid right now. So anything I build in layer 2 will not affect that. Layer 1 will. So here, we've got this. Again, no tile properties, so don't need to mess with any air or anything. So, there's a little rock formation you run through. You can get a little fancier with this. Let's not just put solid tiles there. Let's get the right layer going. Let's have some fun with this. there. So we'll have a little formation like that. Let's get another. Let's have one with a window inside. Let's do that. Make a happy little window. So there's really all kinds of things. And this, you're really only limited by your patience and what you can imagine doing. That is the only limit to this. You know, what you can come up with here is going to be entirely up to you. And again, that's another reason why, you know, these rooms take so long, because you can really get carried away. You know, like, hey, I can make some really amazing stuff with this. And then you're like, oh, yeah, I can make some really amazing stuff with this. And then you just kind of keep going. It's like, oh, I might want to finish the hack before fear comes out. So maybe I should stop for the moment. Maybe I should focus on actually building some other stuff. So yeah, we're going to make some. Let's make a big window. We'll make a big window. Here, we'll have a little dip in it there. Actually, you know what? Let's do it like this. Let's do it like that. We'll have a little pointy formation. Then we'll go in here. Let's go up here. And then we'll do the drop. This formation had some fun growing. I will try that out later. Card. And we'll just get this in here. Get that growing in there. And there we go. Look at that. We've got our little background, foreground window. So there, we've got a few formations going. Pretty good. Let's just take a look. And again, you can see with the ceiling, not only is the floor interesting, the ceiling's creating this interesting scrolling effect here. We've got our lovely little window we run through. And there's another little effect. So let's see, what else do we want to put in the background? Let's go ahead and finish up the background, which is actually the foreground. Again, but since we're doing things backwards, let's just fill this in with some other stuff. Let's get some of these weird pyramid crystal things going. These we just want to make sure they're above this line here. So let's see about Oh, I like that. And then let's just get some little planty plants in here. We'll have some weeds growing. Give this some more visual interest. Give it some life. And don't just stick with one plant. We've got multiple plants to use. Always. Again, this is, I'm keeping this very basic, but always keep in mind you want a variety of different things. And again, that may require repointing your room. I mean, I've already used 806 level data for a pretty basic room. I mean, it is fairly large, but this is a pretty basic room overall. And we'll just make lots of plants. Not there. And let's just get some of these guys in here. And then I think we'll call it with that. All right. So our foreground is basically done now. And something that maybe some are thinking about that might be kind of hard to explain. Also, let me just, this plan will be a good spot. So the layer, let me actually open up the graphics editor to explain this. So just because a tile is placed in layer 2, like our foreground tiles back here, does not mean that they'll appear behind Samus. There is a layer priority that tiles are given. So if you open the graphics editor, let's take a look at these rocks. So this is your layer priority in this little window here. So because it looks like this will always appear in front of Samus, no matter which layer it's on. So if you click on them, you get this little red square, or these little red quarter squares. This represents Samus, basically. So if the square appears in front of the tile, Samus will appear in front of the tile. If it's don't see it, it's behind the tile, Samus will appear behind the tile. Whether the tile's on layer 1 or 2 does not affect that. So this is separate of the layer 1 and 2 priority. This tile priority is for over sprites and things of that nature. So a tile in layer 2 can appear behind Samus, or appear in front of Samus, while being on a layer technically behind Samus. So let me get back to this rock here. Right here, on this, so these bright plants appear in front of Samus. The dark ones appear behind Samus. So Samus appears behind the rocks, but in front of this plant. This plant is on the rock, which appears in front of Samus, but Samus appears in front of the plant, which is on the rock. Looks a little weird. Hey, this plant on the rock that's in front of Samus appears behind Samus. She's running behind the rock that the plant is on. So you can do some weird little things like that. If you wanted to keep it consistent, you just change the plant to match the layer priority of the rock or whatever tile you're using. Otherwise, that's basically you could do some interesting stuff. So speaking of interesting stuff, let's do the rest of this. Let's make a couple of other things to kind of really demonstrate the, I guess, effect here. And do I want to? Not in particular. Well, you know what? I probably should, just to demonstrate this. So let me go ahead and just put this in here. Everybody loves the meridian tube thing, so let's get a meridian tube thing. that, and then where's this slope when you need it? So again, we're just going to do some basic structures here. So let's flip this one here. There's a cat meowing outside my door now. Do it like that. And then let's just fill this in like that. And now, here, since I'm building layer 1, here's where you really want to pay attention to your tile properties. I want them to run through this, not for this to be solid. But I want them to run on solid, so I need to just, again, be very particular about. Actually, I do want this top part to be solid. It wouldn't look right for them to be able to run through that. And I got my tube there. So with this basic structure in place, this is when you'll really start to see the weird scrolling effect. Also, this is not the best place for this contraption because Samus is already blocked by the background there. So let's actually move this, and let's actually fix this thing first of all, so it's not looking so poor. And then again, see, these are now solid, so make sure to set this up properly. So let's get this thing moved down to there. That should, let's move it there. That should be better. Yes, equal is an excellent hotkey. So now when we test this, there's the structure. So now you can see that looks much better. We got our little pass-through tube. It's not being obstructed by anything else. Oh yeah, so the hotkey I'm using to change the tile properties without changing tiles, that is equals. So if I have air tile, I right click on air tile, so that's now my base property. I can press equal and it'll give that property to another tile. So you can do that with anything, bomb block, any tile property you want. And let's just actually do this. Let's just give this some more visual interest here. Let's add in. There we go. Let's just take a look at that. There we go. Another little tube-ish structure window, which we could actually just add the tube into. Why didn't I think of that? That's an excellent question that I don't have an answer for. Oh, yeah, that's schmert. Schmert. That's better. That's fine. So there, now we've got a little tube section in here. Oops, let me minimize that so you can see the whole thing. So there, now we've got our tube in there, along with the rest of this. Interesting stuff. So we've got one little structure in the foreground there. But that's still a foreground thing. Let's add some background to this. Let's just I want to use the Batoon things or this weird garbage? Let's just go for visually unappealing here. Let's just go with this garbage. So we are just gonna make a entirely, I don't even need to put tiles on these bottom two layers, but I don't particularly care. It looks bad if I don't. And again, our tiles need to, the properties need to be fixed. So yeah, here I'm just holding equals and scrolling over the tiles. If you go too fast, it won't actually catch the tiles, so be mindful of that. So let's take a look, see what this weird conglomeration of crap looks like. So there we go. And you see, it's in layer 1. But again, the top priority is Samus appears in front. So even though it's in layer 1, you know, it's in the ground down there. But its tile priority is less than the tile in layer 2. So the layer 2 tile still appears in front of it. So that's how you go about doing things like that. So again, keep in mind the layer priority. It's pretty important. You know what? Yeah, it does actually look really bad. This is just for demonstration purposes, but still that does look really bad. It looks like me in the morning, which is not a good thing. So let's just delete that out. Let's actually just do some wall of seaweed, I guess. Can't go wrong with seaweed. Oh, here's all the bigger seaweed things. Fancier seaweed ropes. That's not the one. Where's the... There's that. And now... Oops. So that seaweed thing hanging down there. That doesn't look right. Probably because it needs to be like that. That's much better. Except for that part. Huh. Interesting. That looks fine. What could possibly be wrong with this? Not that one. Let's do a different one. Let's try this one. Nope, not that one. Where is... You can tell I don't use the seaweed much because I don't know where any of this stuff is. Sure. We'll go with that one. Again, check your tile properties. And so And let's just copy this particular fine structure and paste this throughout here. Get this going here. It's again not too detailed for the purpose of this, so let's just take a look here. And what if we also want to stick one of these tubes in here? Not be a bad idea. Make it look like there's some. Actually, I should probably move that up so I can get this in here as well. So let's actually just in the hallway with this stuff. And then I just have it sticking in the ground a little bit there, just so it'll keep its consistency through any little transparent pixels in those tiles. And with that, I think this is basically the room for this basically is built and demonstrated. So here, again with the seaweed, kind of adding another layer of effect there, scrolling with the ceiling in that static spot. Oh, those appear in front of things. Okay, so that does not actually look good. I thought those appeared behind Samus, but that is wrong. So let's go ahead and put this all the way to the ground here. So there's that. Okay, yeah. Call it that. So we'll say this room's built, just again for the demonstration of the tutorial here. This room's built. This is kind of how you would do a thing like this. But we have something else that we can do. I want to show this. So we built in 2 layers. You can have 3 layers with a liquid. And it's part of the reason why I use Meridia here, because water makes sense here. Now, an important note to keep in mind with water. Like the tube room, you can make it so the water does not actually interact with the player. It's basically just there for graphical purposes. Unless you have grapple, which I found on SLG, but ignore that. So to make water basically not interact with the player, this is what you want, this BG warp line shift. If this is checked, the liquid will show up, but it won't affect the player. So if I didn't have gravity suit, I could still run through here just fine. It's not going to matter. But let's see. I want to do a large tide as well. And I want to draw in behind layer 1. And you can mess with these AB bits for all kinds of interesting things. Gonna have it draw behind certain layers only. Drawn behind everything. Let's actually try that one. Let's try drawing it behind everything with this large tide. And to do this, hold control on the keyboard and then just left click. That'll set the height for your liquid. Let's put it there actually. The orange part just signifies what the liquid is covering. Let's see how this looks. Apparently doesn't look like anything at all. Now what if we just... Let's just try this. Use for normal water. Let's see. Okay, so that makes a difference. However, I don't want it like that. Let me see. Could try some transparencies as well to make this even more. I approve, Chris. I almost called you Chris, Alexi. Maybe we can do some interesting transparencies. Let's also... Let's see what happens with this weird effect here. Which deleted all of our first layer, basically. Nope, don't want that. Okay, let's just leave that like that. Let's see. I want this behind layer 1 and sprite layer. Okay, so here, let me minimize this so you can see. Here you can see, here, let me get to a different spot. You can see the water is being drawn behind Samus. It's being drawn behind the first layer, but it's over top of the background layer. Now what I actually want is it to be drawn behind everything. I know there is one around here that's drawn behind basically drawn behind everything. He's drawn behind enemies only. I know there's one in here. What is this weird thing? Oh, okay. So this is an interesting one. This is making the any tile out of the water on layer 1 is transparent, but when it's under the water isn't transparent. That is a very interesting effect. I have never come across that one before. That's still not the one I want, but that is very interesting. Nope, it's not in the A bit. Transparency is very hard. Oh, look, it literally says drawn behind all. So let's go with that. Except now it's not even showing up. Where in the world is this thing? There's a drawn behind all where it does show up. Bro, do you remember which one it is? Layer 1 and sprite layer. Enemies only. There, I know there is There's one drawn overall. You hear birds because there's unfortunately a bird. See, this one draws it over everything. It's like that, it's over everything. But you get it with palette blends and some... Actually, with a large tide, I want this to be a little bit lower. But with this, you can create kind of a third layer effect. Add even more visual interest, because now you've got this obvious darkening when the water's over top of it. So you can play around with this, with the water, with fog, rain, lava. You could play around with the different effects to come up with even more visual stuff for your already interesting visual room. And really, this is kind of the gimmick, the purpose of this room. It's just to stand out visually. There's really no other way to do it, to mess with it that much. So yeah, that is how to create a Eris room, specifically a horizontal one. You can create vertical versions. However, unless it's just a room you're falling down through, it is really difficult to do, because if you're making platforms, the solid tiles you have to place will not always line up with where the tile ends up in the background, because people will be jumping at different heights. The camera will stop scrolling at different heights. It's really hard to do and make it look right and consistent. It's not impossible. Just be prepared to spend a lot longer getting that set up correctly. Whereas a hallway like this is, as far as the tiling goes, the properties, it's very simple. And I know those don't show, those are just airflow x-ray, don't worry about that. It's literally, you know, with this was a very simple tiling property. Basically, all I had to do was place the tiles out where I wanted them and build the room. I didn't really have to worry about the structure of the tile properties themselves. So in a vertical room, that is much more important. So that is basically it for making an Eris style room. I guess since there is a chat, if you have any questions, specifically about the Eris style stuff, go ahead, ask away. I will try to answer them. Whee. These are all the people in chat. They should all like and subscribe. Well, video's over. In the ROM. Actually, I don't know off the top of my head, no, for the Planet Zeebs one. Why is it called Eris FX? How are PLMs affected? And the doors. Okay. All right. let's start with, let me move this off here so I can demonstrate this, sort of. Okay, so the first question, why is it called Eris Effects? That one's pretty simple. Because this style room started with D-Mantra, Digital Mantra, and his hack Eris. He's the one who first started doing this, so since then it's just been called the Eris room, because that's where it started. How are PLMs affected by Eris FX? So PLMs just act like normal. So if I don't have any, actually, do I have any? No, I don't have any PLMs in this room. So if I were to place a missile here, it would appear static as a missile there. But that's what it would be static to layer 1. PLMs don't go in layer 2. I mean, they're technically not on layer 1 either, but they, as far as their placement goes, if it's a item PLM or a door cap or anything, it's static to that spot on layer 1. So they're not affected by it, basically. They might look weird. If a missile's sitting on the right here and the floor underneath it's moving, but the missile isn't, that might look a little weird. That's basically the only thing. Third question, can you have doors in places other than the 2 ends of the hallway? Yes, you can. Those are obviously the simplest. But you can also place vertical doors. I have done so. In Angry So Little Dread, I had a Eris room where I had 2 vertical doors going up. I tend to not have them going down, because again, I would have to set the scrolls to green to be able to load the bottom 2 tiles, and then that would cause the camera to be able to move. So you can do it. There's nothing wrong with it. It just looks, I think it would look a little weird. But yeah, you can put doors wherever, just like normal. It just looks a little weird because it won't line up unless it's on the end of the hallway, basically. Because that's where the camera stops scrolling. There's a fixed point in the tiles. So, for instance, if I were to have a door like right up here, like these tiles, they may not line up. So if you had your ceiling on the background layer as well, so it was scrolling, it's very hard to get that to line up properly. So that's just something to keep in mind. I believe that was question 3. Question 4, can you do Eris effects with the background pointer? You can't. Yes and no. For beginners, I'm going to say no. For pros, sure. But you would have to make your own custom background pointer. That's why I'm going to basically no. If you're watching this tutorial, you're probably not going to be able to do that, so don't worry about that. You'll want the custom layer 2, not a background pointer. Question 5, what other FX tricks can you combine with Eris FX? Well, that's kind of the thing there I showed with the water. To create another layer, and I added the tide to create some other. I already have this weird horizontal effect. Now I've also added this vertical scrolling effect with the water affecting the tile slightly to add some more visual interest. You can also, again, mess around. You can add fog. Actually, let's go ahead and take a look, see what fog looks like. Probably look terrible to palette blend, but oh. Yeah, you can add fog. You can add whatever else. Again, people should use FX more, in my opinion. You can do all kinds of interesting things. Just create a little extra visual interest in it. You might like this fog more than you like the water. It's very important to experiment with it. So you can do all kinds of things with it. Question 6. Most creative use of Eris FX you've ever seen? Well, to be honest, they're basically all the same-ish, because the general premise of the Eris room is this weird scrolling. So this is what they all share in common. So basically, the only difference you're going to get is how much time people put into it and how detailed people make it. I mean, that's really going to be the only difference as far as the creativity with the Eris FX. Should every hack have at least some instance of Eris FX? Not necessarily. I think it benefits larger hacks, mostly because they're good visual markers, like I was mentioning earlier. For a large hack, it's a good visual marker, so when players make a mental map as they're exploring, there's certain rooms that are easier to keep track of, basically. An Eris room is a very strong visual effect that is very different than your standard room, where all your layer 1 tiles are static. So this makes the room more memorable, so it's easy to think like, oh hey, the Eris room was close to elevator to the wreck ship area or whatever. So it can help larger hacks give players an anchor, sort of, in a larger hack as they're exploring. Can Eris FX be done in rooms that scroll in both the X and Y directions? I'm going to go out on a limb here and say yes, but you're not going to do it. If you're watching this tutorial, you are not going to be capable of doing that, because basically, I think it could be done, but I think it's going to require ASM, because I don't think it's a room that a player would be able to really... Well, you know what? I'm going to say yes. It's going to take a lot of... Also, I just noticed how bad that tiling on the seaweed is. Oh my gosh. Look how messed up that is. Anyway. They're... Like the room and criteria. Let me actually pull this up. Save this room. That is D2, D9. I want that. I want this. And this room and criteria, and this is going to take a ton of testing, but if you do a room sort of like this, maybe a little smaller ceiling so there's less scroll there, I'm going to say you could do it. I would say the tiling, like if this was all in the background, your tiling is not always going to look right. Like Samus will be walking down the slopes on air. Probably. Unless you make it so that she's always in the tile. But I'm going to say it would be possible. It'd just take a lot of testing and a lot of patience to get that right. Are there some enemies that don't work right with Eris FX? No, enemies are enemies. They'll work like normal. They're just... And what are good enemies to use? Basically anything that fits your area. Some enemies I personally think are pretty decent to use are squeeps. They're the jumpy lava creatures. They're static to their one spot, except their vertical spot. And again, I do like the vertical juxtaposition, that movement with the horizontal weirdness going on. So I think squeeps are fairly good to use. But Eris rooms aren't really known for enemies. They're more just there for a visual look, not so much the enemies you put in it. How do you know if you've done it right? That's up to you. It is your hack. Just test it, play around with it until you're happy with what you've got. Maybe keep tweaking it some more to keep improving it, and that's it. I mean, there's no right or wrong way to make a hack. I do say a lot of things, you know, some things might irritate me, some things may just look bad, or whatever else. In the end, it's still your hack. So basically, just play around with it until you get something that you're happy with, that you like. So like this room, for instance, this would be perfectly fine in a hack. I personally would not put it in my own hack. I don't think it looks particularly great. But if this is the room you want, then that's perfectly fine in your hack. And then Sora's question: how do teleport BTS tiles mess with the background too, to make the player feel that they aren't going anywhere? Okay, so that's involving some custom ASM. That's not part of this at all. So teleport BTS, nothing to do with Smile Eris rooms. Where is my thing here? Bear with me a second. Okay, so this should be. This is close. This should work. Okay. So, teleport BTS. Let me go ahead and turn gravity off here. Would be something like this. You can tell on the minimap there's a little door indentation. I'm just being warped back up. So how does the question was, find this question again. Teleport tiles mess with background too. Basically teleport tiles aren't messing with background too. At least as far as the ones used in Fear there go. Or at least old Fear. So here's the row of teleport tiles. I hit this tile, and instead of falling down here, being able to continue on, I'm being warped back up here. Basically to this exact spot. So for these particular teleport tiles, they just warp, actually right there. They just warp you up one scroll. And it doesn't mess up the scrolling because this scroll and this scroll are identical. So when I'm being warped back up, I'm being warped back to the same exact built scroll. And then even here, the top of this is built the same way. So that way, because part of this will be loaded on screen while I hit this. So that'll match up with up here. So really when you're, let me pull this back up here. So as I'm falling, the bottom part that's loading on the screen is actually the top of the next scroll. Let me move this over here. So as I'm falling, there, I'm hitting this, but the camera is scrolling down to here because I had to test this to see how far down it goes. So when I hit the warp teleport block, I'm actually, pardon me, viewing. I'm actually viewing these tiles up here, but then the rest of this is getting loaded after the teleport block. So this is how I get a continuous look with this particular type of teleport block. And again, that's just how this teleport block works. There'd be others that probably maybe done better. So that's how that works. It's just some, I guess, trickeration visually done by making the scrolls the same. Let me see. So, okay. So, I do want to show this Azure. Oh, look at these nerds. So, Azure asks the most important question. If Fusion can do it, you can too. How Metroid Fusion creates fear. This is the best DM I have ever received. This is the absolute best one I have ever received. Anyway. So, yeah. Also, yes, this was fear at one point. So, actually, let me get in here. Oh, you didn't see that. Let's turn this off. So, because this... Ouch. I got hit. The bag. Who puts enemies in their hack? So this, you'll see the mushroom patterns are all the same. And this is using the same teleport block, except it's doing horizontally. So the previous one sent me vertically up one scroll. This one's sending me horizontally to the right one scroll. So I kind of made a pattern of things you had to go in the right order to get through on that. So yeah, basically it just warps you back a scroll, and again, it's got the same tiling through each scroll, so that way when it's warping back, it's just grabbing certain tiles again, because it's got 16 tiles horizontally it's grabbing, so it's got these repeating tiles all the way through, so that way there's no weird visual glitches when it's warping you back. Now I have to change it again, Lexi. So yeah, that's how those particular ones are done. So I guess were there any other questions? I need to make a bot, or I need someone smarter than me to make a bot that will automatically, they'll just plug words into that automatically will select them for blacklisting. And then when someone gets it, it needs to keep track of who gets it and how many times. I need that bot in my life. Someone please make that. Have you ever made a room that has bubbles and spikes? Yes. I believe so. There's bubbles. Here's spikes. Here's bubbles. I mean, there's lots of bubbles and there's a lot of spikes, so that looks like bubbles and spikes to me. Lexi, find someone that can do that and then get them to me so that I can get that worked out, because I want that. I really want that. You know, I don't know what I was, I mean, I kind of know what I was thinking, but so this area was weird. Making it just okay, guys, this crash. Let's get rid of layer 3 so you might actually be able to see this. The whole thing behind these rooms was they're upside down. This is supposed to be the ceiling. And this is the floor. I don't know why. I just suddenly decided, you know what? I want to flip this room. So this is supposed to be the floor. And the ceiling is down there. And why I just decided to randomly do this for a few rooms in this section, I don't know. have no idea what I was thinking. Like, the save is supposed to be on the ceiling for some reason. I can't tell you what I was thinking because I wasn't thinking. So no, that's actually, did I have an Eris room in Old Fear? I did. Let me. I don't really need to hide this because this is all changing, but you know what? I don't need to hide this because this is all changing. I think it was. No. I think it's this one. Yeah, it's this one. Okay. So this thing here. Let's just. Oh. Let me turn guard off so you get the full effect of this. Whee! Whee! I am quite pleased with this room and this FX effect I found. I was Binox before Binox was Binox. The difference is Binox actually makes his look good. Yeah, this hack was mostly find the worst effects I could and use them somewhere. That's basically the premise of the hack. But no, this room is actually... That room was also just using the warping BTS tiles. You're just falling constantly. Oh, look at that beautiful mist. Oh, I hope you don't get seizures. Because this is a good room. This is a very good room. Oh, how do you escape the infinite fall? That's easy. Let me move this back over here. You just don't touch these tiles. That's it. Just move left or right. That's all it takes. So, Eris room. There's one in here. It's got this lovely transparency going on. Oh, it's not this one yet. To just play around. Oh, yay. Oh, no. So there's a save room for you. Is this it, or is this... This is not it. Ignore the speedy bugs there. Here it is. See, I did have an Eris room in Fair. A very dark and cramped hallway. I can speedball. So yeah, I did put one in Fear. You can't really see much, but I think that's the biggest point of this hack. Oh, yay. I also love these mazes. So yeah, that's that. So any hold on, I'm gonna move this up here just so I can, oh my gosh, zoom in. Do this tutorial due to popular demand. Yes. It's a reminder to myself to zoom in on that when editing in 4 years. So yeah. Any other questions regarding the Eris stuff? I think pretty much answered everything there, but also this maze is great. But no, I guess that's going to be it for the tutorial. I'll get this edited later and uploaded, cut out quite a bit of that stuff. But well, thanks for watching, everybody. I am actually going to try and stream again later tonight and finish off Hunters, the Google Translate there. So we'll see. I'm going to try to. They'll be after 5 because I know Nathan's the one who wanted me to do that in the first place, and he gets off at 5, so plan on doing it tonight. But otherwise, hopefully this will help out people. If you want more Smile tutorials, please donate 3K now. I need to pay off a house or something. I just mean my computer, but this sounds better if I say house. But yeah. Eris rooms. No. It better not be. I'll settle for that. Lexi, okay. Lexi, instead of 3K for you, find someone who can make that bot, or see if there is that bot in existence already. Well, after 5, Asder. After 5. So, yeah, Lexi, just find someone with that bot. Everyone else can do the 3K, that's fine. So, anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. See you later. And depending on how, I guess, this Smile tutorial ends up going, I'll see about streaming future ones. If anyone has any suggestions for them in the 4 years it takes to get this uploaded, go ahead, post them in the comments. I know I've done a couple from comments before. I do want to get into slightly more advanced stuff, but I need to learn that myself first. It's kind of important to know your material before you can teach others, so we'll see about getting into that later. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you later. Stop looking at my hack. It's top secret.